There were a lot of things in the 80s we thought were really cool, like this phone, my outfit, even Miami Vice. But today, hey, they don't look so cool. One thing has survived, which is the Silver Palette Cookbook. And the most famous recipe from that book was chicken marbella. So let's go into the test kitchen with Bridget and figure out how to bring back an 80s classic, chicken marbella. Okay, back in time, 1982, and this book, the Silver Palette Cookbook, is published.
Yes, it was a big book.
Rosso and Lukens, everyone was cooking out of it all over the country. And one of the most famous recipes, of course, was chicken marbella or marbella.
That's right.
Named after a little town in Spain. And it's essentially a tagine, right? It's chicken, olives, it had capers, prunes, white wine, marinate overnight.
A lot of flavor.
Bake it off the next day. It had a few problems.
Yes, looking back. Well, as you mentioned, there's all those great flavors in that dish. And even though it was in a marinade, we actually wanted more of those flavors. The olives, the capers, the prunes. We wanted more concentrated flavor. And then when it came to the chicken, we thought, why not go for nice, crispy, rendered skin as well? So we're going to take the spirit of marbella or marbella and move it
to higher realms.
That's right,
okay.
this decade. All right, so let's start off with the chicken. This is 2.5 to 3 pounds of quarter chicken. We've got 2 breasts here, split breasts, and 2 leg quarters. So we're going to brown these off, and this is one of the things that the original recipe didn't do. It didn't brown. We love browning because it's going to add flavor to not only the chicken, but also sauce. It's going to start rendering that fat. So let me just add 2 teaspoons of olive oil into our skillet. I'm going to heat this up over medium-high heat till that oil just starts to smoke. And that's really important. You want to make sure that the oil is nice and hot before you put the chicken in. It's a lot of chicken to go into that pan. It's going to lower the heat just a bit, so we don't want the chicken to steam. We want it to get nice and brown. So in the meantime, we can work on the chicken. Now, it's always important, anytime you're sautéing just about anything, to make sure that it's patted dry very well, because any surface moisture is actually going to cause the chicken to steam rather than brown.
It also, the surface of the chicken won't get over the boiling point of water while it's still wet, so it doesn't get hot enough.
That's right. So that looks good. Next up, seasoning. I've got 1.5 teaspoons of kosher salt. Sprinkle that all over both sides of the chicken. And what we're not doing here is we're not marinating because we want concentrated flavors to really go into the chicken. And the marinated flavors didn't really penetrate the chicken enough for us. Let's get some pepper on there too. So let's put the chicken in, skin side down. Good sear, that's exactly what we want to hear. As I mentioned before, the pan is awfully crowded, and that's why we wanted to get it up to the smoking point. So we're just going to let that sear in the pan. We're not going to move it around, and that skin's going to get nice and brown and start to render, and that's going to take about 5 to 8 minutes. All right, so we can move on to the other flavors, but I need to wash my hands. All right, so the flavors of marbella, it's that briny olives and the capers, a little bit of the prune, fantastic flavors. Now, instead of using a marinade or just a sauce, we're actually going to make a really potent flavor paste, and we're going to use that paste in 2 different places. So, easiest recipe ever. You ready?
I'm ready. All
right, so this is 1/3 cup of pitted green olives, and we've rinsed them, and 1/3 cup of pitted prunes or dried plums. 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil. You really do need that fruity extra virgin olive oil to stand up to these other flavors. And 4 big cloves of garlic. All right, 2 tablespoons of capers. We've rinsed these. And likewise, we've also rinsed 3 anchovy fillets. Got a 1/2 teaspoon of dried oregano. And a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, quite a bit of pepper. 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt. There's a lot of salt already in there. A big pinch of red pepper flakes. Let's get the lid on. And I'm just going to pulse this a few times to get it finely chopped. Let's check it out. I do want to scrape this down. And now we're going to let it rip. We're going to let this process for about 1 to 2 minutes until it's a pretty fine and smooth paste. All right, so that's looking pretty good there. So I'll just go ahead and scrape this into a bowl. That is concentrated flavor right there. All right, so let's take a look at the chicken. Nice and brown. Oh, yeah. So it is done at this point. Just take it out of the pan. Almost good enough to eat right now. But it's not quite cooked all the way through. But you see what's left in the pan there. There's all those brown bits. That's fun, and that's going to help to build the flavor in our sauce. There's also a lot of fat in there, too. And believe it or not, I don't want to leave all that fat in there. So I'm going to pour it all off. I am going to return 1 teaspoon back to the skillet. Remember that flavor paste that we used before. I'm going to scoop out a 1/3 cup of that. If you could turn that back on to medium-low. Now this goes right in there. I'm going to start searing off all of those flavors. So I'm just going to cook this for a couple of minutes. You're going to see even more of that fond develop in the bottom of the pan, and this will become incredibly fragrant. So now we're going to deglaze this. I've got 3/4 cup of chicken broth. It's low sodium chicken broth. There's tons of salt in this recipe. And I've got a 1/3 cup of white wine. Goes right in there. And a 1/3 cup more of the olives, the green olives, and we've gone ahead and halved them. And this is another tablespoon of capers, rinsed of course, and a couple of bay leaves. Goes right in there. So now, just scrape up all those bits on the bottom. This is actually going to become our cooking liquid. I'm going to put the chicken right back into the pan, nestle it in there, this time skin side up, because it's very important for the skin to sit above the liquid. That way, it won't get all flabby again. All right, so let's get that in. Any of these chicken juices goes in. We are done with the stovetop at this point. Now this is going to go in a 400-degree oven for about 15 minutes, and the fat and the skin of the chicken is going to continue to render. Thank you very much. All right, let's grab that chicken. Handle is very hot. Anytime you're putting a skillet into the oven, it's always a good idea to kind of wrap that up so we don't burn ourselves with it. All right, so the chicken is not cooked through, but all that skin is rendered. It's very crisp. Yeah.
It is.
So we're going to take the rest of that paste. I'm just going to plop some on each of these pieces of chicken and kind of smear it all over the top. So we're going to get this really nice concentrated bite of flavor. Now remember the prunes that we had in that flavor paste. This is another 1/3 cup of pitted prunes. All right, so this chicken is going to go back into that 400-degree oven for about 7 to 12 minutes. Oh, yeah. Look at that. So I checked the temperature earlier. The breast meat is 160 and the thigh meat is 175. So let's get the chicken out of there. Oh, you can see how that paste is almost dried a little bit on the top. Really concentrated. I'm gonna get those bay leaves out of here. I just feel like I win the lottery if I can find the bay leaves. So we're just gonna finish this up with a tablespoon of unsalted butter. Yum, just gonna give a little bit of richness here. Just whisk that in. And a little bit of red wine vinegar. This is a teaspoon. Gonna add some brightness right at the end. And a tablespoon of fresh minced parsley. Gorgeous color. All right, so sauce is ready for us. Oh, thank you so much. Get some of that beautiful sauce. You can always sprinkle a little bit more parsley over the top.
A triumph. This is outstanding.
That chicken is so
Yeah,
juicy.
it is incredibly juicy. Like a tagine, has a little sweetness. The balance is good.
Absolutely.
It's a nice balance.
Thanks.
You're well balanced.
Thanks.
So the secret to a 30-year-later makeover of chicken marbella was actually take all those great ingredients, olives, prunes, capers, etc., make a paste, and that paste was used in a sauce. It was also used on the chicken. Chicken was sautéed and then into the oven to finish. So from America's test kitchen to your kitchen, a great makeover, chicken marbella. One of the biggest problems in cooking at home is that you're often dealing with ingredients and recipes that actually come from a long time ago, and those ingredients have changed. Now take chicken. Maybe 100 years ago, it was a 3 or 4 year old hen that had stopped laying. It was eating bugs and worms. It was pasture fed, and it actually had a lot of flavor. It was probably pretty tough. So today when you go in the supermarket and buy a chicken, it has nothing to do with that chicken from 100 years ago. So today here in the tasting lab, Jack is going to do a tasting with me of chicken to see if we can get closer to the ideal, the chicken of yesteryear.
Well, I don't know if we're going to get that close, Chris, but let's see if we can get the best of today. We sampled 8 brands. Modern chickens are all the same breed that are ready in 5 to 8 weeks, so no 3.
Really?
Yes. I mean, they're specifically designed to grow as quickly as possible on as little food as possible. Modern technology, but gotta love it. We knew salt was going to be an issue. 2 of the 8 brands have salt added during processing. One is a kosher bird that is salted during the processing to draw out.
This is an extruded chicken product. But anyway, go ahead.
One of them is kosher, so it is salted during the processing. The other is injected. So they are now, like a butterball turkey, injecting broth and salt into some chickens. So we brined the plain birds so that the salt levels would all be basically the same in the samples. When we ran the tasting, we noticed that some of them seemed, frankly, just mushy and wet. Turns out there are two processing methods. There is something called air chilling, where after the bird has been slaughtered, it is hung in a cold, refrigerated area, and in about 3 hours, it chills down. And during that time, the meat can tenderize, and it's also not being exposed to water. The other method, which is much faster, is they immediately plunge the chickens into huge vats of chlorinated water. So there are thousands of just slaughtered chickens in a chlorinated
There
pool.
are some things I don't need to know. This would be one of them.
And besides the unappetizing description of that, is that those birds pick up, if they're water chilled, a lot of water weight. And in fact, if you read the labels carefully, and I've got some labels here, you're wondering why Paula Dean is with us. Paula Dean is actually the spokesperson for Springer Mountain. And if you see on the label, may contain up to 5% retained water, then you know that it's been water chilled, and that you're basically paying about, for a 4-pound chicken, 40 cents extra for the water, which is picked up during the chilling process. And that water is just washing out flavor and making it mushy. If you see air chilled on the label, that means that it was not dunked into a chlorinated bath and is not full of water. And we actually found that the air chilled birds had a much better texture, more natural, didn't have that sort of sponge-like texture. The two air chilled birds, which were at the top of the rankings, also had more fat. So they had more flavor to begin with. The flavor wasn't washed out by the processing. So you've been sampling white meat. We've got some dark meat here. Anything that you're noticing in terms of flavor or texture differences?
This is the closest to a real bird. It's a little drier. It actually has some chew to it. I still have my teeth. I like to use them occasionally. This was absolutely horrendous. I mean, whoever is making this bird, they had to do some real serious time somewhere, because this is really bad. I mean, it is soft and gooey as if it was made from some plant product. Is that clear enough?
I think that's clear.
That's awful.
That's an opinion.
This is the worst. This is number 2. This is also quite good. And this one is number 3.
Okay.
So I just want to get to this one. Can we just see what this
Sure.
was? If this was our winner, I'm retiring.
The good news is that is not the winner.
Ooh.
That's Springer Mountain.
Paula Dean's
That's
chicken?
Paula Dean.
Paula.
It is one that is water chilled. That if you read the label, you can see that it's got extra water in it. It didn't do as badly as you're saying. It was not at the bottom of the rankings, but it did seem awfully soft and kind of mushy.
So let me take my winner, which felt like the real thing.
And that was the tasting panel's
Wow.
winner. This is Mary's Chickens. This is West Coast brand, available Arizona, Nevada, California. It's available in Whole Foods. It's sort of a smaller brand, but large regional brand, but it's not available in the entire country. Clearly, we thought had the best chicken flavor, had a fair amount of fat, which means flavor. It's processed by the air chilling method, which we like, so that's our top choice.
Of the 4, this is my number 2.
And that was the tasting panel's number 2,
Oh.
Chris. This is Bell & Evans, widely available east of the Rockies.
It's good chicken.
It's the other brand that it is air chilled rather than water chilled, which we prefer. Has nice flavor, again, has more fat, which equals flavor. Great choice.
And this was my 3rd choice.
This is Tyson. We really didn't like this. This is one that is injected like a butterball, so it's got a 12% solution that's being added to pump it up. Our tasting panel was more negative about the Tyson than you were. It doesn't seem very natural.
So I guess we should say goodbye, Paula, and say hello to Mary. Mary's Chicken was the winner here at the Tasting Lab.
I'm here in the heart of Brooklyn at the Purple Yam restaurant, where Chef Romy Doratan is making his version of the Filipino classic chicken adobo. While Romy is marinating the chicken, I had a chance to talk with his wife and cookbook author, Amy Bessa, about the cuisine of her native country. So, Amy, Filipino cuisine, I think, is one of the last major cuisines that Americans don't know that much about. People aren't really familiar with it at all. So can you just give us a little rundown of kind of the major characteristics of Filipino cooking?
I would really look at 3 major dishes. They're not really dishes, they're cooking methods, and that's adobo and sinigang, which is our sour soup, and kinilaw, which is of our own version of ceviche. The thing that connects all 3 dishes is the flavor of sourness.
How many kinds of vinegar do you have in the Philippines?
Anything that has sugar in it will ferment.
True.
You know, there's sugar cane vinegar, and people make from all kinds of fruits. The possibilities are endless. My suggestion is, you know, use red wine vinegar for beef adobo, apple cider vinegar for pork. Those are very classic combinations, right?
Right.
And we use rice vinegar for chicken.
So there are, I take it, a lot of regional variations on adobo. What's the one that you guys do here?
Well, Romy comes from Bicol, which is the southern end of Luzon. And that's coconut country.
Right.
Everything is cooked with coconut there. You know, you have to look at one dish. You know, like the Thais have pad thai, the Vietnamese have banh mi.
Yeah.
And adobo is the most beloved dish. It is our best seller, and people love it.
By now, there was some great food cooking outside. I was ready to go out and try some of Romy's chicken adobo. Wow, that smells awesome.
Okay, why don't you try it?
All right, I will.
Okay.
Just a little piece here.
I think you should put some chili.
Oh, yeah,
And
yeah.
a lot of garlic.
Yeah. Wow, that's incredible. Wow. It's got the sourness, but it's not overwhelming. It's certainly there. You know it's there. It's got that creaminess from the coconut milk. It's a little bit hot. Perfect balance. This is delicious.
Thank you.
It's great. Thank you very
All right,
much.
you're
This is
welcome.
perfect. And now that we've learned about Philippine cooking and I've tasted Romy's adobo, let's go back to the test kitchen and see if we can make an adobo for the American home cook.
So this adobo thing is confusing to me because it's got a foreign word in it, adobo, which I looked it up, which just means seasoning or marinade. So it can be just about anything, right? I mean, I guess vinegar is important and soy sauce, but there's a million varieties of this.
That's correct. So the Filipino chicken adobo we're going to make today, the core concept is basically chicken that's been marinated and then cooked in a combination of soy sauce and vinegar with lots of black pepper, garlic, and bay leaves.
Got it.
Okay, a lot of recipes start off by using a whole chicken, but as you know, whole chickens don't take well to braising because of the white meat. So we opted for bone-in skin-on chicken thighs, which have a higher amount of fat and collagen than breast, and a little bit more meat on the bone than drumsticks. The first thing we're going to do, though, is we're going to trim off a lot of the excess fat from around the sides of the chicken here.
So how many thighs do we have?
I have 8 thighs here.
Okay.
And we'll just trim this back as well. We want to remove as much fat as possible up front, otherwise it's going to end up in the braising liquid after we cook it. So you want to leave just enough skin to cover the top of the thigh. What most recipes end up doing is they end up marinating everything and all the ingredients included in the recipe, the vinegar included. However, when we did that, we found that it made the chicken actually tough. So instead, we opted for just using soy sauce alone. So we're just going to add the soy sauce and toss the chicken around in it for a bit. This only takes about a half hour to marinate and really get the flavor in there. So I'm just going to cover this with plastic wrap, and this will be ready in about 30 minutes. All right, Chris, so this chicken has been marinating for about 30 minutes. And I'm just going to take it and remove it to this cold,
What?
yeah, 12-inch nonstick skillet here.
Look, I don't know how long you've been here, but for 20 years we've been explaining about preheating skillets.
Right.
So
What's the story
what gives here? Yeah.
Well, when you're making a braise, some of the problem with chicken thighs is that they release a lot of fat into the braising liquid, which ultimately becomes the sauce. So what we're doing here is we're kind of taking a technique similar to rendering bacon, for example. We're going to bring the chicken and the skillet up to temperature at the same time. And this allows some of the fat beneath the surface of the skin to render off. And then after about 10 minutes or so, we'll have well-rendered skin that's also brown and crisp. And we're going to bring this up to temperature on medium-high heat. Okay, we'll just let that sit. And now we can turn our attention back to the soy sauce. We're going to build our braising liquid in this soy sauce here.
Okay.
So we have one 13.5-ounce can of coconut milk.
So that's unsweetened coconut milk, right?
Right. 3/4 of a cup of cider vinegar. And 8 garlic cloves, peeled. 4 bay leaves. And 2 teaspoons of ground black pepper. Okay, and we're just going to whisk that together. So we're going to just let this finish cooking off and rendering, and we'll come back in about 10 minutes. Okay, Chris, you see how much fat is rendered off into the bottom of the skillet here, and that's exactly what we're looking for. The chicken skin is nice and brown, and it's a lot thinner because it's a lot of the fat beneath the skin is rendered off. So we're just going to transfer it to a plate.
Boy, that looks good.
And we're going to just discard all this fat in the pan. It's a fair amount of fat, huh?
Yeah, and the skin is nicely rendered, too. I guess you know something about this.
A little bit. That's my people. So we're gonna put the chicken back into the skillet, skin side down. We do this because we want to finish it skin side up. It'll be flipped later on. And now we're just going to add all of our coconut milk mixture to the skillet. A lot of adobo recipes don't actually feature coconut milk. It's something that's more customary in adobos native to southern Luzon, which is the largest of the Philippine Islands. And for our purposes, we found that it worked really well to temper the harsh acidity of the vinegar and the saltiness of the soy sauce.
There's no cover and there's no oven.
No cover, no oven. It's just the way it is.
This is backwards Brian's favorite adobo recipe. So why is that? You want it to actually reduce down as you cook it, the sauce?
Correct, right. This braising liquid will become a sauce at the end for us. So kind of benefited us to leave the lid off of it and let it reduce. Okay, I'm gonna let this simmer over medium-low heat for about 20 minutes. And then I'm gonna come back and flip the chicken and cook it for about 15 minutes longer while it comes up to temperature.
Okay.
Okay, Chris, so this has been simmering for, yeah, it smells good, right?
This would wake the dead.
This has been simmering for about 15 minutes, and we're looking for it to register 175 degrees, so.
Perfect.
So I'm gonna transfer all this chicken to a platter. We'll remove the bay leaves. I have 4 of them in here. Now I'm just gonna reduce the sauce slightly, bring it back up to a strong simmer, and I'll let it reduce for about 5 minutes until it's thickened slightly. Okay, Chris, so the sauce is thickened up nicely. We're going to just spoon it all over the chicken here.
So you told me you were actually born in the Philippines?
Yeah.
We said this was the food of my people. I thought you were joking, but this actually is the food of your people.
Yeah, that's right. I was
grew up on this.
Born in the Philippines. And then we'll just garnish with some sliced scallions.
Boy, that looks good.
Cooked up some
The
rice.
rice first?
Yeah, the rice works really well with this dish.
Smells delicious. Oh. Your time was well spent in the Philippines, evidently.
All 3 years.
Boy, this is good.
Thank you. I could leave the chicken and just eat the sauce.
Well, the problem with coconut milk sometimes it's overpowering and it's kind of heavy, but with the vinegar, it's really nice.
Yeah, it really cuts through the richness of it.
So there you have it, chicken adobo Brian's way, which started with a soy sauce marinade, and then in a cold pan skin side down to render the fat from the skin. Got rid of that fat and then added the sauce itself, coconut milk and vinegar, and cooked it on top of the stove, no cover, for 40-45 minutes, flipping halfway through. So from America's Test Kitchen to your kitchen, a terrific recipe for chicken adobo you can make at home. You can get this recipe, all the recipes from this season of America's Test Kitchen, our testing results, and you can watch selected episodes at our website, americastestkitchentv.com. Fabulous job.
Thank you.
So where'd you live after that? You gonna come back with another recipe from the next place?
Yeah, from Florida.
Let us help with dinner tonight. Visit our website anytime for free access to this season's recipes, taste tests, and equipment ratings, or to watch current season episodes. Log on to americastestkitchentv.com.
The complete America's Test Kitchen TV show cookbook includes every recipe, tasting, and testing from all 13 years' shows, including this season. With over 850 recipes, it's our most comprehensive collection ever. The cost is $29.95, $10 less than the cover price. You will also receive this 4-DVD set, a $39.95 value, featuring all 26 episodes from this season at no additional charge. To order, call 1-800-831-8315 or order online at americastestkitchentv.com.
America's Test Kitchen is brought to you by DCS by Fisher & Paykel. America's cooks rely on innovation and culinary precision. DCS by Fisher & Paykel, offering premium indoor and outdoor kitchen appliances. Cooking.com, an online retailer for the kitchen enthusiast. If it's not in your kitchen, try ours. From our family to yours, fresh from the field, Foxy organic vegetables. Kohler. Diamond Crystal Salt, the gourmet choice. Wente Vineyards. And by Lee Kum Kee.